Hey, Zips fans, Chad Welker with the Zips Digital Network. We're back for another edition of ZipsCast. It's ZipCast episode number 9. We have our cohesion of co-hosts with Spencer German from the Zips Digital Network, Nate Stewart and Maverick Wolfley from football, and Alexis Adlita from volleyball. We're going back to the football team. They've got 85 plus athletes, so we're going to start with the punter with Jonah Whelan. And this is where Maverick gets to kind of take over and host the show. So Maverick, off you go, pal.
All right. How's everyone been doing? I know we've been away for a while because of finals, but how was finals week for everyone? And then I guess you two who weren't really taking finals, how was your last week without our show?
My finals were great. Well, I guess as great as they could be, but I only had about 4, I think, and then a few projects. So just kind of working on that and then studying for the LSAT now. So happy that school's over.
Me too. Finals were rough a little bit, but you get through it. It's school, so.
I feel that 100%. I had a good 5 or 6 projects that I had to do throughout all my different classes, so that was definitely a struggle getting all those turned in on time and trying to get those done as good as you could. But yeah, overall, I feel like I did very well in my finals, and I'm happy with my overall performance for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did okay, I guess. I miscalculated one of my grades, and I thought it was out of so many, but it was like about 50 points more. So I went and messaged the teacher and asked if there was anything I could do to go up. And he's like, I don't know how you got that grade. You're this far away instead of like, I thought I was like 1% away from a certain grade. And I was like, oh, so I just felt really stupid. That was probably the funniest thing that happened to me this past week. But anyways, so obviously Jonah Whelan's our guest today. So Jonah, tell us a little bit about yourself and, just whatever you want anyone else to know.
All right. Well, I am a redshirt junior here at the University of Akron, and I'm the punter, and I also am the holder for the football team. Not a lot of people necessarily know that, but I'm a major in business analytics. I will actually be the first person from the University of Akron to ever graduate with a degree in business analytics due to it being a new major that they instituted here in the last couple of years. So I'm pretty proud of that, being able to be the first student athlete, let alone student, graduate with that degree. Also graduating with honors, me being in the honors college. I've done that for the past couple of years. And I plan on graduating in December. That's pretty much me for school. I guess outside of school football, I don't really do too much, kind of just play video games and just chill at my house. Play a lot of Fortnite. Fortnite's a good time. Not too good, though. Definitely not the best, but it's a good time.
So we kind of figured you could tell what led you to Akron, what made you choose Akron. Did you have anywhere else you were considering? Kind of what's your overall perspective on how you got here?
So I went to Hudson High School, which is 20 minutes down Route 8 from Akron, and so I've lived in Hudson since the 2nd grade. So I grew up, watching Akron versus Kent games my whole life, watching Akron football. I went to the indoor facility throughout my entire middle school and high school career and did stuff there. So I've always had a good taste of Akron Zips football and, what it's been about, what their program's like. And going up into high school, I kind of I started my junior year. So I didn't start my freshman or sophomore year. So I didn't necessarily get the greatest amount of film or the greatest amount of exposure personally as a kicker or punter. So I wasn't getting, like the huge big time D1 looks. So a school like Akron was a very plausible option for me, and it was a great program. They had a bowl game appearances, and I don't know, they wanted me. It wasn't like that I needed to go there, like for myself. Like they were pushing me. They wanted me to come here not only as an athlete but as a student. They were pitching me this new major that they were coming out with, which was exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted necessarily go into sports analytics. Not necessarily the business aspect. And our football team personally has a director of research and analytical operations, Rich Worsel. And so I plan on interning with him once this COVID stuff gets under control, learning what he's about and trying to learn as much as I can from him to hopefully implement that either when he leaves from here or maybe somewhere else.
Okay. So as a specialist on a football team, I know you don't get as much as much praise as you guys deserve. So kind of talk to us about, like the pressure of doing your job, because it's kind of a lonely job, and if you aren't doing well, everybody's on you. But if you are, it's kind of like if sometimes can feel like not many people may notice. So talk to
That
us about that a little bit.
that is definitely the case, and I got a big taste of that right away when I started here this year. This was my first year starting, and I didn't necessarily start off the year the way that I wanted to. And I heard from a lot of people in this city talking to me about how I could do better, what I need to do. And honestly, that's the only time you'll ever really hear from people is when you're not doing a great job. And it tests your mental capabilities for sure. It's definitely one of the hardest positions to play from a mental aspect in the game of football, in my personal opinion. Some people might tell you differently, but it's just because of the fact that you are so focused on one task and you are doing that same exact task over and over and over again. It's just that some people, they overlook it. They think that since you're doing that one task over and over again, that you should be doing it to perfection, and it should be perfection every time. And that's just not necessarily the case. If that was the case, then everybody would do it, and it wouldn't be a thing that you would recruit kids to come and play at a Division I school solely to do that. So it's definitely tested my mental capabilities for sure this past season. A lot of ups and downs, but I've learned a lot from this year for sure, and I plan on using what I've learned this year, both on and off the field, mentally and physically, and coming into this next year and really stepping it up. Definitely.
Jonah, I lived with you. I mean, I've known you since freshman year. We were pretty good friends. You were like 2 doors down from me in the dorms. So I've known you for a while. Something you told me about in high school, you had a punt that was our senior year, which was 2017. You had a punt that went 86 yards, which was like one of the longest in the nation that year. And then also you said it was the longest in high school. Obviously, that's a huge play to completely switch ends of the field, to help your team out. What was that like, knowing that you were getting recognized for that? Like Nate said, they don't get as much recognition when they're doing something great. Obviously, that's a great play. What was that like? What was that feeling?
Yeah, it was definitely a really, really cool experience. It still holds today the longest punt in the state of Ohio for high school history. That's pretty cool. Net yardage wise, because some people will kick it into the end zone, but however, they have to move it back 20 yards for a touchback, and that'll take into the net punt aspect. So mine was on the 14-yard line. We downed it in the opposite one. It was against my rival, Stowe Bulldogs, my senior year. So that was even sweeter. We were down 21-3 when that happened, and we ended up coming back 24-21 to win that game. I'm not going to say that I sparked it, but it definitely gave us a lot of momentum to go in there and do what we needed to do. It was a really chilling experience, really cool experience. It was the first time ever that I've heard, a student section chant the name of the punter. Never heard that one before, but that was really, really cool. It's just the high. It's the highs and the lows. That was definitely one of the highest moments of my life. But in that point in time, I ran off the field and I was just trying to went exactly do what I do after every punt. Went off the field and started doing my drops, doing my leg swings. Just you can't get too high and low. You have to stay very even keen as a punter or as a specialist overall. So
Well, didn't you also play tackle in high school? So you had to like switch jerseys, right? Before every punt.
My whole life, I was the chubby kid who played offensive line, didn't kick a football, didn't punt a football, didn't do anything, just played O-line. My dad was a soccer player, so I tried to do soccer in the winter, indoor sport, but that didn't work out too well considering how I couldn't really run. So I played O-line going throughout my whole career, basically. Did it from second grade to my senior year of high school. And then my junior year, the punter graduated, and I had kicked a little bit, in middle school. I had done some kicking on the side just for fun, just everybody does it, see who can make the longest field goal by towing it. I guess I could kick a ball pretty decent, so I tried punting it, and, it's lost a little bit of weight, and here we are.
So I've got 2 questions for you, Jonah. Number 1, are you a Aussie style kicker, or are you regular straight up? And then I've got to give a shout out to Kyle Foster because he's my neighbor. But what did you learn from him in the couple years that he was with you, and now that you're transitioning yourself as a holder as well?
Okay, I guess I'll go after the first question. So I mainly do up and down straight American style punting. We do, however, implement a rugby style punt into our special teams. That is still definitely a work in progress from my aspect. I can definitely get better from punting wise from that standpoint. It's definitely something that we need to implement into our punt in order to, I guess, move the defense around and not have them know exactly what we're doing on punt aspect. So it's really something that I could probably work on, but it's not something that I am ignorant to. It's something that I've done before, something that I've done in the season this year. May have had a couple of not so good ones, but we're doing all right. We're improving. We're getting ready for this next year. We're learning from our mistakes and doing what we need to do in order to improve next year. 1,000%. Secondly, holding. I basically was just Kyle Foster's understudy these past couple of seasons when I wasn't necessarily starting for the Zips. So whenever practice was going on, me, Foster, and the snapper Cam Lyons would go off to the side, and he'd be telling me, what I need to do, how I need to do it, and I would just sit there for an hour every practice and just catch snaps for PATs and try to get this down, because I knew that once he was gone, we needed somebody to really fill his shoes, because he was without a doubt one of the best holders that I have seen live. I know it's not necessarily – it doesn't seem like it's that cool, but it is really, really impressive to see a person put the ball down in the same exact spot and spin it to laces out every single time without a question, no doubt.
He should have won that Holder of the Year award or whatever.
He did definitely get stuff for the Pete Mortel Holder of the Year, but Jonah Whelan's going to try and make a campaign this year to do him up, to do an honor for him.
That's a nice segue into my question. I was going to ask, just explain to us the art of holding, because it's one of those forgotten things that people don't always think about. People always just want to blame the kicker when a field goal is missed, but the hold can be almost more important than even the kick itself. So explain to us the art of holding. What goes into catching that ball, getting it down the right way? How do you want to hold it?
There's definitely a kick this year against Kent State where some people might have been blaming the kicker for it, where I was kind of jogging off the field saying, "Oh, that might not have been exactly where it needed to be. That might be me, but that nobody's gonna know that back home," which is nice, but it's also not so nice because you're not necessarily getting recognition when you're doing a great job holding. But holding it's all a matter of perfecting the art of catching it and bringing it down. If you can catch it and bring it down in the same exact spot every single time, working on having a spot and keeping your eye on that spot when you catch it and as you're bringing it down, that probably is the hardest part of it. Spinning it is not necessarily the hardest part, just because once you have it down, and you can grab those laces and spin it there, and it's not too complicated. The hardest part in itself is getting it to a spot where the kicker is knowingly and confidently knowing that you are going to put it there. Because if you don't put it in that exact spot, it's going to mess up his mechanics, mess up his timing, mess up where the contact point on his foot is. The contact point is huge in a kicking for a kicker. So if he's expecting it to hit on the inside part of his foot and he's hitting it with his toe, it's definitely going to be a different kick. So you just have to make sure that you are not inconsistent at all, because if you are inconsistent, then the kicks are going to be inconsistent, and then it's just not going to be a good deal.
So when you're out there, are you feeling more pressure as the role of the holder, or are you feeling more pressure when you're back there trying to get ready to punt the ball?
Dang, that's a great question. Great question. I don't necessarily feel pressure for either, to be honest. It's just going out there and doing my job, what I need to do for the team. It can definitely get in your head either way if you think about it too much, because if you're thinking about it from a holding aspect, you're like, okay, well, nobody's watching me, so if I mess up, everybody's gonna be like, well, who the heck is that guy? And if I don't mess up, then they're gonna be like, okay, well, that was great, we don't need to worry about it. And then from a punt aspect, if you hit a good ball, you're like, okay, it doesn't matter, you expect him to do that anyways, it's his job. And then if you don't do that, you're like, who the heck is that guy? So it's just a matter of just doing your job, doing it right every time, because if you don't, you're going to hear about it.
So it's better for your name not to be said at all, basically.
Oh, definitely. I don't want to go out there on the field at all unless it's for a PAT. Like, I do not want to touch the football at all unless it's for a PAT or field goal. If I'm touching the football, that's not necessarily the greatest thing for our offense. So I plan on every day going in there saying, okay, I'm going to have a nice, easy day. I'm just going to have a couple PATs, a couple field goals, no punts whatsoever. It's going to be a great day, great game. And that's what I go in there expecting every time, but I'm prepared for the worst, in a sense.
Well, hopefully you don't regret coming on this and introducing yourself to Zips Nation then.
No.
Now everyone's going to know who you are.
Now that there's a face to it, now people can praise it or can be like, oh, well, now I know who the heck that guy is. That guy stinks. So it's all right though. It's all right. Comes with the job. Comes with the job.
Does anybody else have any more questions, or are we good? All right. Well, so I guess we always do a fun segment. It took me a while today to think of a good question, but I figured, we're all in quarantine right now. We're all trying to keep up with our workouts and everything. Obviously, being collegiate athletes, we work out all the time, and they work us out at a very high level. So I was just curious as to what is the hardest workout you guys have ever done that maybe made you question why am I here, or made you not be able to walk the next day, or just something that maybe you just dread, or something, just whatever your worst experience was.
I guess I'll go first. This one's a good one. So my sophomore year, so last year, but I guess I had weighed in a couple of pounds a little too much. Me being an old O lineman, I like to eat a little bit. So our strength coach, in order for me to lose weight, would make me walk around the track as a speed walker at speed walking pace, like the 40-year-old soccer moms. And he made me carry around the 2.5 pound weights like the soccer moms, and he made me move my arms, just like them, and walk around the track at a very, very fast pace. And if I didn't get it at that exact pace for a mile, I'd restart. I don't think my shins have hurt more in my entire life than after that speed walking mile ever. That is the most severe pain I've felt. I told myself I would no longer weigh in overweight ever again. And I feel like I've done that. I've lost at least 20 pounds since my sophomore year in order to not weigh overweight. That's for sure.
I remember watching Jonah walk around with that all during that, just him walking by with things. We're all like, what the heck is going on? I think it was some punting or kicking thing, or just nope.
Well, team's practicing. I'm out there doing speed walking laps.
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, what the heck?
It was
fun. I think the hardest workout I've done. Okay, so my freshman year, quick story, I got in trouble for eating nachos on the sideline of a football game. I was redshirted. I got in trouble for eating nachos on the sideline. I got caught because a booster took a picture of me and the other players that were eating nachos on the sideline. Mind you, at the time in this game, it was 41-0. We were losing, and we were playing Western Michigan when they went to their bowl game that year when they were ranked. My coach Sleeve, if you guys remember him, his workout for me, this was at a time where I had torn my ACL, so I couldn't walk. I was not on crutches, but I couldn't do athletic stuff. He made me butt walk on the turf, like cheek by cheek, butt walk 50 and back by 5 times. I I don't know. I've never heard of it before or after, and that is the only time I've ever done that in my life. But it made me sweat harder than I ever did in any other workout that I've ever done before.
Steve is always coming up with something new, isn't he? First the speed walking and then butt walking.
Yeah, mine definitely would have came from Sleeve too. Oh man, we when we would come back from the month off in May, when we would first get back, we had these things called doubles or whatever, or we run fifths or whatever. Basically, it's a timed lap around the field. You got to make it in like 50 seconds for a combo or mid, whatever you want to call me. So for tight ends and linebackers, you got to make it around 50 seconds. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty good stride. You can maybe run 5 of them before your hamstrings start cramping up and you're just all right, I quit. But so the day before we came back, and I hadn't squatted in a while. And after you squat, you don't squat for a while. Your whole entire legs, they just blow up, and you can't walk. It's just rubber. You struggle to go up and down steps. So we did that the day before, and I literally could not walk after the workout. And then the next day we ran doubles. How many? I don't even remember how many we ran of them, but they're literally the worst thing ever. It's 2 laps around the field, like 2 minutes maybe. How many did we do? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's
did
4
5.
laps. Okay, so it's 4 reps, but you run around twice. So in total, you're running like 8 laps,
Yeah, and it's
but you
it's
run
the
2 at a time. Yeah.
worst thing ever, and I literally just could not walk after that. I had to like crawl up the stairs to get back into the locker room. It was awful. I will never not like squat for a while again because I learned my lesson. And always got to do something.
For me, like anyone who knows me personally knows that running is my absolute worst, most hated thing ever, especially in the world of sports, which is especially why I don't play soccer, as I've mentioned before. So we have a conditioning test when we come back because we don't stay in the summer for volleyball. So we have a conditioning test and we have to run a 300, and it's basically up and down the volleyball court 15 times, and you have to make it in a specific amount of time. And it's the most dreaded thing on the volleyball team. Everyone always dreads it, like gets so much anxiety the day before. So honestly, that's probably my most general thing. But after it's over, we get to go and play volleyball. So everyone's just like, all right, just get it over with. It's fine. So probably that. But I think more specifically, one morning, because we used to have 6 a.m. workouts my sophomore year, I think. And we had to VersaClimb, I think, for 15 minutes. And it was the absolute worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. And then the next day, or 2 days later, we had to do plate pushes with 45s up and down for 15 minutes straight. So needless to say, that was the worst week of my life. Made me question my whole volleyball existence. But
Alexis, is there any chance that Tom amends the conditioning test a little bit after you guys had a longer layoff than usual?
one can only hope. But it has changed. So my freshman year, we had to run 15 rests, do 15 again. But it has changed, so we only have to do it once, but it's still really hard. But freshman year was the absolute worst. But we can only hope once we come back that it's changed just a little bit.
But at the end of the day, after that rally you guys had against Buffalo this fall, about 2 minutes long, I bet you it was worth it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Nate, I was gonna say I'm still perplexed by this butt walk thing, man. Like, how do you do that and like not end up with your shorts just like shredded at the end of it? Like
That okay. I don't know how my shorts didn't fall, but they didn't. Like he made sure that like you can't slide. You have to lift each cheek at a time. Like you have to walk. Like you can't let him slide because he made me start over when like the first 10 yards, that's what I was doing. And he was like, no, go back. And I had to start over and actually walk. And it was like I lifted up, like I was wobbling. It was that was bad. It was bad.
How did do you go forward? Are you like sitting down? Or
No, it was back. It was backwards.
That's what I figured, but I just had to ask
backwards.
because I was very confused as to
Very
how that
backward,
would work, especially because you said your knee. So, I guess we can go on to our final segment here if nobody else has anything to say. The last thing I had was your best memory. So since we were going, off our worst workout or whatever, so basically your worst memory. What is your best memory here at the University of Akron on the field or off the field or on the court or off the court, whatever it was?
I guess my favorite memory that I have off the field is it would have been my freshman year. After we did the 10x10 squat and bench for our developmental lift, which was also one of the worst things I've ever done. Afterwards, me and a couple of the other specialists, we went and we got a Qdoba breakfast, and we went out and we played some Frisbee golf. And that was, I don't know why, but it was probably one of the most enjoyable moments that I've had at this university, just being with all the guys, just after a hard lift, just getting together, eating some good food, and enjoying each other and enjoying Frisbee golf. I don't know. It was probably one of the best days that I've had at the University of Akron.
For me, I guess mine would have to be on the field. It'd probably be, don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of good times, but kind of obviously here to go to school, but I'm also here to play football. So like I guess the best memory for me would probably be beating Northwestern, because I guess I was shocked by what they said, the fact that it had been like over 100 years since we beat like a Big Ten team. So that for me was, I don't know, that was just really special, especially like I said, because it's been over like, it was like 1890 something. I can't remember, but yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy. And I thought it was pretty special we did that.
I think my best like memory here would be the first game I got to go to like as a player. We went to Penn State. We lost the game badly, but I mean, at the time I didn't play a lot. I did play, but I didn't play a lot. But just like, like going to like, that's your first college football game, your first like time that you're able to like, be a college football player. And then just to like run out of the tunnel, I think was like was it for me when everybody's just yelling and it's like the first game of the season. It's Penn State, like they have one of the bigger stadiums in the country. So yeah, we lost the game. But like I said, that kind of, as selfish as it sounds for me to say, it didn't really matter to me because, like it was my first game and then my whole family was there and everything. So I think that was like the best moment, I guess.
For me, I mean, honestly, my past 3 years here, I've been super grateful and blessed. I've been able to see so many, like, travel to new places that I probably wouldn't have been able to. Um, my favorite trip was probably our trip to California my sophomore year, just because it's somewhere new. It's the West Coast. It's far from here. I'd never really been to the West Coast. It was really enjoyable for the team. We ended up doing really well, coming close. I think we came first or second in the tournament overall. I can't really remember, but I had some own personal records, and then we obviously got to go visit Huntington Beach and do all that fun stuff. And so I think that's probably my favorite.
Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up ZipCast episode number 9. Jonah, appreciate you for coming in and being our guest today. I think maybe, and obviously, the more we share this, the more insight maybe the country gets to a holder and a punter, because I know a lot of the specialists don't get talked to a lot. So let's advance this and let people know what the art of holding is for sure.
So let's let people know like what being a specialist is all about, because it's a very specialized art. It's a very, I don't know, it's very detailed. It's just something that not a lot of people know what to do or know how it's done. What goes into it, what you have to do in order to prepare to do the task at hand. So it's good. It's good. It's good stuff. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So, and for the rest of everybody else here on ZipsCast, Nate Stewart, Alexis Adelita, Spencer German, and Maverick Wolfley, this is Chad Welker from the Zips Digital Network saying see you on Thursday. Have a great rest of your week, and as always, go Zips!